Yes, please do.
Yeah. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. On the screen joining me here is Mr. Costin Gache from Romania. Costin, say hello.
Hi, hello. My name is Costin Gache. I'm from Bucharest, Romania. I started early into bartending when I was 13, then went straight to FLAIR bartending. When the first competitions happened in Romania, I was the guy doing the barbecue. I went into FLAIR a bit. Then I went also into mixology as a bartender, and eventually I opened my own bar. Then a second one, then a closed one, then open a restaurant, then open a bigger restaurant, then reopen the bar into a nightclub, then making big events. So right now during this pandemic, I'm sitting here with Tom Dyer talking about FLAIR bartending, trying to redefine it. I'm going to try to be you and explain maybe to other bartenders and audience what FLAIR bartending is, and then we see how it goes, if it fits you, if it doesn't fit you, and so yeah. So when a FLAIR bartender should go from being unconfident to confident in his movement, that comes first through dedication and throwing himself into it and getting his hands dirty and getting maybe a bit of bumps on the hands, but then he becomes a little bit confident and he starts to explore on his own. He does this trial and error process. Then he becomes confident again because he gets his own, by exploring, he gets his own moves. But on the other way, he always has to remain open and humble so that his creation can go over again, and he should accept the critics of others and the opinions of others so that he can remain in a state of openness that can really get him into overcoming what he has explored until then and overcome his already explored areas and maybe remain open for the new things to come in FLAIR and to get his confidence even better than that. Exactly. So, but that act of FLAIR bartending provokes joy, but it should provoke joy to an audience. And that audience in the beginning is not interested, but when it sees something or it hears something, it becomes interesting. It's like somebody taking his eyes from the girl in front of him to the bartender back there because he heard something. And if he's seeing something new, then he might remain interested in that area. And that is only final and really defined if there is an interaction between the bartender and the audience. And that interaction can only be set in a setup stage that transforms a bar from a vending machine to a theater. And on that setup, you can provide a show that finishes with a drink performed effortlessly. And that creates the drink, the joy, and the unique bar experience that is actually the expression of art in bartending.
Boom. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I love that.
Dude, I think, well, in my opinion, because we sat here going through it, I think we've hit the nail on the head. As I said, I think it can be subjective to some people for sure. And it'll be very, very interesting to hear people's thoughts and opinions.
The thing is now what we have to do is go through all these 9 accelerators on the top. Yeah, because when you go to somebody and say an expression of art in bartending, they maybe don't get it right, you know, but when you go, what is a show? What is the setup on stage? What is the drink like? Why should I be open? Why should I explore? How do we, if we go deep on these 9 things like seeing and hearing, and how do we do that with the music and stuff? We go deep into seeing something new, and we go deep into interaction, the setup, the stage, the show, the drink. Then it becomes easier to go into the middle of it.
Yeah, I think, well, you can continue to branch out, can't you, really?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
talked about setup stage, like you said, is music, lights, whatever.
yeah.
But I think the general crux, as you've got in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
the expression of art in bartending
Mm-hmm.
is essentially right, because when somebody becomes a master of their skill, you know, when they're bartending and they're doing it with flair, I mean, I think a lot of people have said it's a sport, but I've always thought it is an art form of some description, because
But
you are,
we can go back here, because here you said that as an expression of art, it brings you in a state of meditation that creates you, that you move, and the creation of the moves brings you happiness.
correct.
So yeah, we kind of described this earlier on in the unexpected part of it. Yeah, I'm very happy with the result here.
Me too. Exactly. So, Costin, sorry, I know him as Gache. Sorry, I'm going to call you Gache throughout this. Saw the podcast that we did with Nicholas and John, and he said he has a good process or system to try and define flair, because it's one thing that Nicholas was talking about, trying to define flair. So, do you want to talk us through this system and what we're going to do? Because I don't know.
Yeah, okay. So we're gonna start with like the iceberg. You see an iceberg, and then on the top and not underneath the water is what is usually tangible. You know what's flair, considering to you and to people. You know what people say about flair. What is flair on a basic level?
Are you asking me? Yeah.
Yes, yes, I am asking you. Yeah.
Flair is, I'm just going to splurge out words, is
Yeah,
a show, is originality, is,
let's say this is the first level of it. So whenever somebody like a
so you want
normal
to explain it to
customer
a normal
goes
person.
and says, yeah,
So
what? It's a show.
Flair is a show whilst making cocktails behind the bar.
Hmm.
It can also be a performance choreographed to music and judged by a panel of professional judges.
Hmm. But
Um,
okay, so let's stick to the first level. So it's like the basic level, that the one that you understand straight away. So
okay,
it's like a show while making cocktails behind the bar.
exactly.
Okay. And now we're going underwater. Yeah. So we see what it is, and now we're trying to go underwater. Yeah.
Okay.
So what is the experience around flair?
Excitement.
It is excitement.
Um,
So should be. So now we should kind of set ourselves as with talking from the perspective of a customer, of somebody that has to understand that customer, can be called a normal customer, can be called the flair bartender itself, the flair bartender community, and we should treat that differently. So let's say, what should the experience around flair should be to a normal customer?
what it should be, or what is it?
As both.
Okay.
Let's think on a on a level that you would love to
Okay.
be. So not what it is, but what it should be in your perspective, the experience around flair to a customer.
The experience around flair to a customer should be entertainment
Hmm.
while making cocktails. It
Yeah.
should.
But does that show that entertainment? Why is the entertainment different than a show while making cocktails?
Because the show is the performance part from the bartender's point of view. So the bartender should be thinking about making it into a show. and from the guest point of view, that show should be entertaining, or it should at least have some kind of wow factor. I mean, flair bartending, I've always said, is a bonus to your bartending skill. And it is essentially somebody who has mastered their skill.
Okay, so somebody who has mastered their skill. So it's an entertainment, it's a wow factor, and it's somebody who has mastered their skill.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the second level. Now we're going deeper underwater, okay?
Nice.
All right. So next question is, what it means. You know, what it means. What's the meaning of flair? You know, what this means to you? So it's like if flair should be like a profound experience, how would you describe it in 3 words?
What does it mean to me? Sorry, that's my computer. What does it mean to me? It means it's a form of expression.
Okay.
It's an escape from the mundane, and it means it's an outlet of creativity.
Outlet of creativity.
Yeah.
And the same question on a deeper level, what on a profound experience, you know, what should it mean to the normal consumer, to the normal people? You know, how should profoundly flair affect a human being?
With an experience. A different.
How should that be for, I mean, here you said escape from outlet of creativity, form of expression, that is concerning the flair bartender, but how does that concern the actual viewer?
Okay, so ask me the question again, sorry.
So what would it mean, you know, or like if flair would be a profound experience, it's the same question, it would be a profound experience for the viewer, you know, how could we describe it in 3 words, or how would be the way to say things? What should happen, you know? Why should it have meaning to the person watching it?
Why should it have meaning? That's a really hard question.
Yeah, I think you're gonna go deeper.
It should be, the profound experience should be like a wow. It's hard to answer this question. It should be like a wow factor. It should be an experience that they remember.
Okay. So.
It should be part of the process of their drinking experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some descriptive words. It should be, as a guest, flair bartending should be fucking awesome.
Yeah, so you said here should be a wow thing and should be remembered. So if in general, you know, if something you remember, it means that it means something to you when you remember it. So
yeah, it should also be, it shouldn't be too distracting.
Not too distracting.
To the final drink, to a certain extent. It should be the extra.
Should we say like? Can we describe it as like a lifelong memory? So in this deeper, profound thing, on the way it should be like, people should go like, wow, you know, I remember this.
I think
it's sticking to my mind.
It can definitely, lifelong memory is quite quite a big statement, but it's definitely something which people do relay back, you know, as general public that I speak to. They go, oh, I remember this guy one time and he was doing X, Y, and Z. So you can say it is, if a flair bartender is good at what he does,
Mm-hmm.
it
Yeah, I
can,
mean, we're talking what we want to achieve with it, you know. So, you know, it's like from a customer point of view, we're saying that if it would have like if it would be like a lifelong memory, then it means that we did the job, you know.
exactly. So I think we can say that quite comfortably.
Okay. So in this this is the first one. So in the first part of the iceberg, we agreed that flair should be a show, should be a performance while making cocktails behind the bar. True. This is why I wanted to down, and I'm gonna write down and send the PDF afterwards because it's easier like that for me.
No problem.
So should be on the upper level. Should be a performance, yeah,
Yeah.
a show while making cocktails.
Yeah. I think that's the easiest way to describe it. I mean, it's,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's many people.
Obvious, yeah.
Sorry?
This should be the obvious.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I'm trying to think as broadly as I can, because I know there's probably many people who are watching who will be saying, no, it's something else, no, it's something else, no, it's something else. But the whole idea here is we're trying to define what flair bartending is. So we're looking at it at the biggest spectrum that we can to generalize it and look at it from everyone's perspective in a way.
So the second layer, when we're talking about, is the second layer is the hidden one or the experience at flair. And here we said that it's entertainment, it has a wow factor, and it's a master of their skills.
Sure.
You said this, so can we rephrase this? Should we rephrase this? Like this is the hidden part of it or the experience of flair. You know, it should be like entertaining. Yeah.
So this factor should be the experience of what flair bartending is.
Yeah. We are talking. We're trying to, or rather say to normal customer and then to the flair bartender itself, because it looks like it's important both ways.
I think just relay what we've got in terms of the experience.
In terms of the experience, we said it's an entertainment, should be entertaining, should have a wow factor. And you said here is like the bartender has mastered their skills.
Yeah, I mean, the experience, looking back at that, the question again for the guest is, it captures the eye of the guest.
Okay, that's better, even better.
It captures the eye of the guest and makes them want more.
Mm-hmm.
It's an upselling technique.
All right.
And the experience that the guest gets is joy. And I'll say that wow factor again. If you can provide a wow factor to your guests, they'll want to come back to your bar or you personally as a bartender for another cocktail.
So it expresses joy and should be this wow factor.
And there should be, the experience should have a certain level of inclusion with the guest. It shouldn't just be about the bartender showing off and him expressing his ego or his arrogance.
Mm-hmm. So yes, there's joy, wow, inclusion.
Joy, wow, inclusion, exactly. JW. So just before we go on,
yeah,
can you explain to me and the people what we've just been doing?
So what we've been doing is like taking something that is on the tip of the iceberg here, that is the obvious, then try to see the hidden part of it, then the unexpected.
Cool.
And we kind of looked at two anchors, the one with the customer experience and the flair bartender's experience. And we kind of take it out of Tommy D's mind and put it on paper.
What is this system called? Does it have a name?
Yes. This is a small system. This is I'm stealing this from Simon Bowen. That is actually one of I'm doing a coaching job with him. It's he has the models method, so it's like trying to explain your ideas through models so people can understand it easier. Because
Right.
what we did right here is like when we went down, you know, the to the third part, yeah, the unexpected, yeah,
Yeah.
lifelong memory. So that kind of describes takes over all the other levels, you know, the above levels. So
Okay.
whenever you go deep, you understand better and it explains better what it is.
Okay. And we're going to use this to try and define what flair bartending is,
Yeah,
hopefully.
hopefully, yeah.
Okay, let's carry on. I'm excited.
We're gonna take this into this model here that has three circles, right?
Sure.
Um, and now we're gonna try to define um, what would these three main circles be. All right. So imagine for flair bartender to happen, you should have an audience, you should have the flair bartender, and then you should have something else. That can be the bar or the competition, maybe the context. You know, when you see it. You know.
So I do think the bartender is obviously needed. I do think the audience is needed because flair bartending is made, should be made for the audience or the guest or the customer, whatever you want to call it. And the bar, I think you've hit the
Yeah.
three main things on the head there. If we don't have a bar, we're not flair bartenders. We're just jugglers.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with jugglers, but we're just jugglers. If there's no audience, then we're not serving cocktails, and we're still just a bartender making. We're a mixologist,
Mhm.
essentially. And if there's no bartender, there's no flair. So.
Okay. So when the let's say the bartender should be the flair bartender, because like you say here, you know, like we're looking here, and we have the bartender, the bar, the audience, and let's see. Let's look a bit at the bartender. What takes you from it takes you from where to where, you know, where takes you flair, you know. So I'm wondering if I mean like in this uh, bartender thing should be like it takes you from being a normal bartender to being what, like flair bartender, I would say here. Is it clear, you know, that you become the very best flair bartender? So you're a bartender, and then it's obvious that you are a flair bartender. It's, I don't know, when does that transformation happen? It takes you from doing something to being something else, and how does that look?
Confidence.
Okay, so it's a uh, it's a confidence of movement. We can say that.
Yeah, I think so. Confidence of movement. Full stop. Let's not try and go too detailed into that, because I think the biggest thing to discuss this, the biggest thing that people struggle with, is that they can go into their practice room and juggle 3 bottles, but they can't be behind the bar and make a drink whilst flaring. As soon as you have the confidence to be able to perform in front of people and make a drink and do tricks, that's when you're a proper professional flair bartender.
When we're talking to the audience, um, what should flair bartending do to the audience, taking them from where to where?
Um,
I'm here, you know, I don't know, me as an audience, I come here, I have this. How does this transform it? You know, the audience.
I know what you're trying to say. It's like, so just going back to reference the bar side, you know, what makes somebody, the bartender, the flair
Yeah.
part, confidence.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not like what makes the audience, but I think what brings the audience into play is the interest in what you're doing.
Mhm. Okay,
It,
so from from not interested to interested.
Basically, yeah. I'm going to quote Stretch once again, funnily enough, because he always seemed to put it quite blatantly obvious. He always had a term of, you know, the guests are not waiting for their drink, they're watching. So they're interested in what you're doing, and they're watching with being entertained by the bartender. So I think it is the level of interest that you get from the audience which makes them the audience.
So
and
that's interested. They're interested in what?
In what the bartender is doing.
So the bartender's movement. Okay.
Exactly.
Let me go to the next question, because I think you're getting into it. So if FLAIR bartending takes you to a confidence of movement and the audience takes you from not interested to interested, what does the outcome of these two things happen when the audience is interested and when there is this confidence of movement to the FLAIR bartender? What is the outcome?
Joy and happiness.
Okay.
Because
okay, so let's go to the bar. What do you think FLAIR bartending takes on a bar from a state to a different state? How does FLAIR bartending transform a bar?
it makes it the point of interest. It's
Okay.
the bar changes from being a vending machine to a theater.
Okay, so from vending machine to theater. So there is something that a vending machine is something that is, let's say, transactional.
Yeah.
Right? And then from transactional, you kind of feel like a theater experience, entertained.
Yeah. So let's look at.
Oh yeah, it takes from the vending machine to a theater.
Sorry.
Takes the bar itself, yes.
From a vending machine to a theater. Let's look at it as a vending machine, just a vending machine. If you can have a vending machine where you buy a can of Coke,
yeah,
you put your 50 cents in, you get a can of Coke. But
yeah.
let's say that vending machine, you put your 50 cents in, it plays you a little song,
yeah.
somebody dances around, and then the Coke rolls down this thing. You know, you've created a bit of entertainment.
Okay, so let's go to the next one and see whether if the audience gets from not interested to interested and the bar is transforming that vending machine into a theater, what does that mean? What is the outcome of that?
It's an experience of I don't know.
I didn't say it's going to be easy.
No, I know. I can't find the words to kind of explain it. I suppose a better experience.
This is a better bar experience, right?
Exactly, a more unique experience. It's all about the experience at the end of the day. Is that when you have the bar that's delivering what it's delivering, and the guests are there to be a part of it, you're creating an experience, a vibe within the bar, which is unique, which is...
So we would say a unique bar experience?
A unique bar experience, correct.
What happens when the FLAIR bartender, you know, like he has this confidence of movement and the bar is transformed from a vending machine to a theater? What does that outcome do?
It should be a level of effortlessness.
Effortless.
It should be effortless for the bartender.
So when the bartender is in confidence of his movement, and the vending machine, the bar, like the vending machine becomes a theater, that's an effortless performance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And now drinking performance effortless. So right now there is the middle, right? So when the bartender and the audience experience true real joy, yeah, they're happy, then drinks are performed effortlessly, right? And in a nice way that makes a unique bar experience. What is there in the middle? So this should be like a punchline, you know. It should be something that drives you there. Is the heart of it, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you look at the model here, you know, that is the center. So that is the heart, right?
Sure.
I'm going to.
I mean, we look. I think it's an expression of art.
Oh, we got that.
Because when you perform, a performance can be a form of art, depending on what you're doing.
Can we see?
Sorry?
Can we say like expression of the art of the craft? I don't know. I'm just saying because it's a craft that you're doing. Yeah, it's your craft. No.
The art of bartending.
Mhm.
I mean, art is inside bartending, isn't it?
I believe I love that. The expression of art in bartending is love.
And just to discuss it quickly,
Mhm.
if you look at it from all levels of bartending, this is why I believe every bartender is a flair bartender.
Mhm.
Take away from the performances that you see on stage and juggling bottles, that is the extreme of flair bartending, which we've defined as competition flair bartending or performance flair bartending. But if you go to a high-end mixology bar,
Mhm.
where they're not juggling bottles and throwing objects around, it's still flair, because they're creating a unique bar experience. They're creating an effortless performance, and they're bringing joy to people, which is the expression of the art of bartending. And I believe that is essentially what flair bartending is.
And now we're gonna go to the three main things: the flair bartender, the audience, and the bar. And we're going to try to see what are the three main things, and that should include all of them, that makes a bartender from unconfident to confident in his movement. What are those three?
What makes somebody confident? Help me out here, because
So is it the first thing that that happened to me as a fair bartender is like the first thing it gets me interested, you know, and then uh, you get the pain out of it because you I mean like when you become a fair bartender, then it starts with this pain, you know, is this like this block of it. You see somebody else and you go like, oh, I'm never gonna be like that.
dedication. You need practice, you need dedication, and you need to care for it. You need to love it.
So I think dedication kind of includes practice.
It does.
So until now, I found in your words this three areas. So one is practice and dedication. The other one is explore, trial and error, and that is kind of referring to the same area. And then there is this humble, not blinded, you know, openness,
Yeah.
right? If when a flair bartender goes from being not confident to being confident, it takes three things, right? And you said first is practice, then we kind of move it into dedication, then you kind of express something like explore, trial and error, then you said something about humble, I said something vulnerable, you said not blinded, and I said then openness to it. You know,
Yeah.
so we are kind of looking at these three areas. So I would okay, and now we continue to go to audience. When the audience comes from being not interested to interested, what are the three things that has to happen to the audience? So if we take somebody, an audience, and we transform it from not interested to interested, we are looking to hit their sense of seeing and hearing first. Then we try to introduce them to something new, and then we interact with the audience. That transforms the audience from not interested to interested, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. 100%. There's no other answers. We are correct. No, I genuinely, that is a good way to define it.
And now let's do the last part of it. When does a bar, you have that interaction. When does a bar, what makes a bar transform from a vending machine to a theater? I think is right there is the setup, the show, and the drink, right? Because uh, when you are at the bar, and then if you have the right setup, then you can put on a show. But at the end of the day, you have to get a drink,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
So
With this, there's a fine line from being a vending machine to being a theater, because a vending machine still creates the drink, but doesn't necessarily have a stage or a show beforehand.
I'm going to try to be you and explain maybe to other bartenders and audience what uh, flair bartending is, and then we see how it goes, if it fits you, if it doesn't fit you, and so yeah. So when a flair bartender should go from being unconfident to confident in his movement, that comes first through dedication and throwing himself into it and getting his hands dirty and getting maybe a bit of bumps on the hands. But then he becomes a little bit confident and he starts to explore on his own. He does this trial and error process. Uh, then he becomes confident again because he gets his own, by exploring, he gets his own mood. But on the other way, he always has to remain open and humble so that his creation can go over again, and he should accept the critics of others and the opinions of others so that he can remain in a state of openness that can really get him into overcoming what he has explored until then, and overcome his already explored areas, and maybe remain open for the new things to come in flair and to get his confidence even better than that.
Exactly.
So but that act of flair bartending provokes joy, but it should provoke joy to an audience, and that audience in the beginning is not interested, but when it sees something or it hears something, it becomes interesting. It's like somebody taking his eyes from the girl in front of him to the bartender back there because he heard something. And if he's seeing something new, then he might remain interested in that area. And that is only final and really defined if there is an interaction between the bartender and the audience. And that interaction can only be set in a setup stage that transforms a bar from a vending machine to a theater. And on that setup, you can provide a show that finishes with a drink performed effortlessly. And that creates the drink, the joy, and the unique bar experience that is actually the expression of art in bartending.
Boom. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I love that.
Dude, I think, well, in my opinion, because we sat here going through it, I think we've hit the nail on the head. As I said, I think it can be subjective to some people for sure. And it'll be very, very interesting to hear people's thoughts and opinions.
The thing is now what we have to do is go through all these 9 accelerators on the top. Yeah, because when you go to somebody and say an expression of art in bartending, they maybe don't get it right, you know. But when you go, what is a show? What is the setup on stage? What is the drink like? Why should I be open? Why should I explore? How do we, if we go deep on these 9 things like seeing and hearing, and how do we do that with the music and stuff? We go deep into seeing something new, and we go deep into interaction, the setup, the stage, the show, the drink. Then it becomes easier to go into the middle of it.
Yeah, I think, well, you can continue to branch out, can't you, really?
Yeah.
You talked about setup stage, like you said, is music, lights, whatever. But I think the general crux, as you've got in the middle, the expression of art in bartending is essentially right, because when somebody becomes a master of their skill, or you know, when they're bartending and they're doing it with flair, I mean, I think a lot of people have said it's a sport, but I've always thought it is an art form of some description, because
we can go back here, because here you said that as an expression of art, it brings you in a state of meditation that creates you, that you move, and the creation of the moves brings you happiness.
Correct.
So yeah, we kind of described this earlier on in the unexpected part of it. Yeah, I'm very happy with the result here.
Me too.
Let's say solid as the first draft.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I mean, this is the the part of it when it becomes nice, because now we have a real discussion going on, and we can say what explore means, what openness means, what that means, and then we can go back into the circle and see whether there is something missing there, you know. And that should be your job, you know, to kind of talk to everybody and see, you know, this is my model, this is how I build it, and maybe you can show the video and see how how was the model created and what were the questions and everything, so people can go and say, oh, I believe that here maybe you were missing something, or maybe you missed something in your head about this, or how about this idea, why is not referred into this model? And yeah, but it's a good start, I believe.
I completely agree. And I think, as I said, in the future, we can do it again, but we will do it with a selection of bartenders.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get Tomek or Marek, and maybe Nicholas, Christian, Ken Hall, some of the people who have been around it for a long, Andy from WFA.
Yeah, and right now, if I would have had this the iPad really linked, and you would see me drawing by the time and you were looking at it, that's a way different experience than me just saying it.
I think a few people could be using this for their training in the future. to tell people to define what flair bartending is on a basic level to start with. Do you know what I mean? I think this is, as you said, this is the beginning stages as to getting.
Yeah, this is the magic of it. But then when this has to be transformed in mechanics. So if you want to be more like specific, then you can go to the judges of whatever competition and say, guys, this is flair bartending, you know, how are going to transform it in order for it to remain what it is here.
What you mean, the competition side?
Yes, on the competition side, you say this is what it is. Please let's invent the rules so that it sticks to what it is.
Exactly.
But, it can become an important tool, because whenever you see a rule that doesn't refer to whatever is going on in here, then we don't need that.
I think if we look at competitions now, the one thing which I think is missing the most, and I said it throughout the video, is the joy. And the joy from the bartenders, because they're trying to just win a competition. And yes, they have that ego wank that we spoke about. Sorry. But I don't believe that everybody's having enough joy behind the bar. There's also that the performance isn't effortless for plenty of people. They are creating a unique experience. And I think that's fairly easy to achieve that from many bartenders' perspective. But the joy and the effortless performance isn't there. And I think that was missing from a lot of my performances. From 95% of my performances, I think the effortlessness wasn't there. So it's a really, really interesting model. And thank you for taking the time to do this with me. I really appreciate it. And I'm very excited by it.
Very happy to do it. You know, when you had the interview with Nicholas, and I was trying to ask something like different, because like I don't know if there is a difference between flair and flair bartending. I would just say that we need to say is flair bartending, and flair leave it to a general word, or is it not, you know?
Yeah.
But this is a hard thing to define, and it's a good start, and I like it.
I'm glad we did this here instead of on, you know, on Nicholas's interview. Could have been tough to, you know, to get to some kind of answer, but I'm glad that we did this here, and I hope Nicholas watches this as well, and I hope all the bartenders watch it, you know, and give their opinion onto this, and then we can redo it with a group of people in the future. Let's see. Thank you very much, Costin. We appreciate it, man, and I'll let you know as soon as it's ready, and we'll catch up soon.
Okay, I'll just send it over this on WhatsApp. Bye.
Amazing. Thanks, man. Bye-bye.